Buckle up, buttercups. Today we will be discussing the mysteries of the moon. This intel comes from Swaru Te sources. The moon is a spaceship that was brought here 12,000 years ago to stabilize the orbit of Earth after the destruction of the water planet Tiamat, which destabilized Earth's orbit and resulted in Noah's flood. The intergalactic battle between the extraterrestrials, which resulted in the destruction of Tiamat, was so violent that it upended the entire solar system. So let me break this down as briefly as possible. The moon is fake and hollow. The moon was brought here. It has holographic projectors to disguise itself. The moon accomplishes several things. 1. It creates an artificial bubble around the Earth, resulting in the Van Allen radiation belt, which traps us. 2. It lowers the vibrational energy of Earth, which results in complete reincarnation amnesia, and forces us into a perpetual reincarnation loop unless our vibration is strong enough to escape, which it usually isn't. 3. The moon creates a hard light holographic overlay over our pre-existing 5D Earth. Most of the universe is already 5D, but we are trapped in an artificial bubble, kind of like a swimming pool. This holographic overlay not only disguises the real 5D Earth, but also conceals the plant and animal life, as if it were in a different dimension. I don't have a clue in hell as to how the technology actually works, but that's the gist of it. 4. The moon's holographic 3D matrix overlay, which governs the parameters of this prison, is controlled by an autonomous artificial intelligence. Like most alien tech, the AI is synced with the collective consciousness and manifests what the majority of the collective conscious desires, which is why fear porn and media scare tactics are used to deceive us into a state of hopelessness and despair in order to create a self-fulfilling prophecy which keeps us trapped here. 5. NPCs, otherwise known as backdrop people, are manifested by the moon's artificial intelligence. And let me tell you, there are a lot of these demented creeps walking around. And I mean a lot. I estimate that every 9 out of 10 people are poorly programmed, soulless, brain-dead husks designed exclusively to piss you off. The NPCs, aside from being annoying as hell, pose a serious security risk as they can be remotely hacked by curious extraterrestrials using immersion pod technology, which closely resembles the pods from the Matrix movie franchise. Reptilian factions, which we are still imprisoned with, and the real reason for the Moon Matrix, can also hack the NPCs and start wreaking havoc. In addition, the Moon AI can also hack the NPCs whenever the Matrix fake reality is challenged, which results in the Agent Smith effect. You will definitely know when this happens because it's like a switch is flipped and the Moon AI NPC will fly into hysterics mainly because it's too stupid to argue with you. Then you will feel incredibly dumb that you wasted your time talking politics to an NPC in the first place. The Moon AI can also alter physical matter on the fly, which is why physical objects and computer data can change right in front of your eyes. The Moon AI, however, is currently failing due to a lack of power. 8 of the 12 generators are non-functioning, which is why the weather and people and animals are starting to glitch. Supposedly, the extraterrestrials are slowly turning off the moon holographic projector, which will dissolve this Earth and reveal the true 5D Earth underneath. So do not worry, you will not be transported through space or anything like that. They're just slowly powering down the machine. One important caveat. The generators on the moon are nuclear-based, which is primitive technology. They were likely installed by the Cabal in the mid-20th century, and as we know, the Cabal is working with the Galactic Federation for unknown reasons. The moon is also off-limits to most extraterrestrials, similar to national parks like the Grand Canyon here on Earth, which means there is something shady going on. Now, this is purely speculation on my part, but I believe the Cabal may have installed kill switches on the generators and is threatening to immediately terminate the 3D holographic matrix instead of the gradual declination that the Federation was hoping to achieve in order to reduce public panic. Let's hope that's all there is.
Another video. I hope you are all doing very well. I am Marie Swaru. The moon has filled Earth's night sky with mystery and beauty for thousands of years. It has inspired from packs of wolves to poets and painters, and through the ages everyone has wondered what it is, and how far is it. It has always been associated with magical things, with the esoteric and with the metaphysical. Its ghostly light has inspired both fear because of the shadows it produces, and because of its calming and soothing effect. But what is the moon? This is the information about the Moon that the United Federation of Planets, or Galactic Federation officially states, and it differs drastically from the also official information about it, but from Earth. The information is so different that it causes immediate disbelief in most of the population of Earth, as the official version of it is much simpler, and a lot more logical, if we only observe the official story given by Earth science. This difference causes a clear rupture of worlds and realms, where what is a fact in one differs so much from the other that it is simply incompatible with one another as there are so few parts in common, and a lot of previous baggage and knowledge are necessary to be able to understand each side. It is hard for people in space to comprehend how and why people see and explain the Moon as they do, and it is even harder for people from Earth to understand how stellar people see and experience the Moon, as their information is more limited and controlled than the one available for the stellar people. I'm not going into describing how the Moon is seen, explained and understood on Earth, because you all have a lot of that already. I rather will describe what is said and seen on this side, from space. All I will mention is that even Earth scientists know that the Moon's existence is much of an anomaly, as many things about it simply don't add up. For example, the simple fact that the Moon is 400 times smaller than the Sun, but it is also 400 times closer, so they appear to be the same size in the night sky, this also making total solar eclipses possible. And also, the Moon is by far too big, and too massive in relationship with the size of planet Earth, to be a natural satellite. The next is stellar information. Many highly advanced stellar races use super large starships that are basically artificial planets. These artificial planet-sized starships are usually spherical in shape, as it is the most practical and efficient shape for a super large craft, because in space there is no correct up nor down, and a ship simply is as it is, floating there, so the best shape is the one that is most comfortable for what it has been designed for. These super large crafts are engine equipped and they can travel through space autonomously, not needing to orbit any star system permanently. They are starships, motherships, not planets. They are slow to move compared to other smaller ships, but they have full interstellar capacity, but because of their relatively slow speeds, many races choose to use natural solar portals and star wormhole transit systems. These large crafts are slow compared to other smaller ships, needing several days or even weeks to move from one star system to another, in an interstellar manner, while other ships can jump that distance in a matter of hours, and the smaller most agile craft such as the fighter class can travel that same distance in only a few minutes. The Moon is a massive wreck of one of those large planet-sized ships. It is what was left of a biosphere starship that was once home to millions of Andromedan people, but that was devastated some 12,500 years ago in what is now called the Tiamat Wars. I cannot go into describing what the Tiamat Wars were all about because I would get seriously sidetracked, but I will do so in another video. But in a few words, the Tiamat Wars were a skirmish or a big fight between two rivaling factions, one of them belonging to the Galactic Federation, and during those wars, high-power weapons were used, including ionizing nuclear ones. My group has serious doubts about how nuclear weapons work, but they are included in the Galactic Federation data I have access to, so I mention them here. In short, what my group detects and notices about nuclear detonations on Earth is that they are congruent with blasts from energy weapons of other kinds, which also happen to leave behind ionizing radiation residue. But then again, this is another subject. Tiamat was a large watery planet, about 80% the size of Neptune, that orbited the Sun between Mars and Jupiter, where the asteroid belt resides today, and the asteroid belt is what was left of it after it was destroyed in that war. The asteroid belt is made of dirty ice balls, mostly water with rocks, dust, and gravel, all clumped together forming large chunks. Tiamat means the watery one, and it was known by the Sumerians who said that there were 10 planets, and the Babylonian text in Numa Elish talks about it. It was also called Lucifer, and the meaning of the word Lucifer is, son of the morning. And it is the origin of the Spanish word, lucero, which means in English, bright star. As it was a water planet, it shined in the sky like a second dimmer sun, as a mirror, and this is the origin of the idea that the sun is a binary system, which it is not. It served Earth and its biology and inhabitants as the Moon does today because there was no moon back then. The word catastrophe literally means, the death of a star, and its origin goes back to Tiamat's destruction. The high-energy mass destruction weapons used there destabilized the planet, which started to wobble uncontrollably as it has vast oceans, until it fell apart and disintegrated. In this war the surface of Mars was also devastated, forcing its inhabitants underground, at least mostly. The water of Tiamat circled the solar system, falling towards the sun, at least mostly in a liquid state, as things don't freeze in space as you are told on Earth because in a vacuum there is no heat transfer, so objects retain their temperature for a very long time. Space is not a perfect vacuum, but that is also another story. The waters of Tiamat were mostly captured by the sun, but a lot of it was attracted to the planets Venus and Earth, where it fell from the sky as heavy non-stop rain, for 40 days and 40 nights as the story goes, causing the great flood and destruction that also devastated Earth. This added mass coming from all that water destabilized Earth, causing its axis to tilt and causing a polar shift. After this war ended, with heavy losses from both sides, the Galactic Federation decided to artificially move into Earth's orbit one of their battle-damaged spherical biosphere ships to help stabilize the planet, as it was also wobbling as Tiamat did before its destruction, and has been there ever since. The Moon was built a very long time ago by Arcturian and Andromedan engineers, in the region now known as Bootes Void, near the Arcturian planet Pitoia. The data about the exact date is incongruent and impossible to accurately obtain, as time and its duration varies hugely. Time is not a constant and cannot be taken as one, much less while observing events that took place far from Earth. It entered this solar system right before the Tiamat battle and was used as the Federation's main FOB or forwards operating base. It sustained many fierce enemy attacks and suffered great damage and loss of life in the millions. It was beyond repair. The Moon was towed into Earth's orbit and placed there artificially to serve as a counterbalance for the planet. The Moon's surface is quite void of detail, or surface features, as it is basically a metal ball. It is much like the Death Star in the Star Wars saga, but without the main big dish that one has at one side. As this could be seen easily from the surface of Earth, the Galactic Federation's engineers placed an array of thousands of hologram projectors, all synchronized with each other, to produce a realistic hologram of a natural moon, ridden with craters, right in front of the moon's metallic surface. The moon's light is the reflection of sunlight, that is correct, but the light goes through a transparent holographic film that gives it its features. These are detailed enough to pass as a real surface when seen with powerful telescopes because the hologram is in high resolution, but it is not perfect, and many people using civilian-sized telescopes with decent power have managed to detect the hologram resetting, among other telltale and revealing lighting anomalies. The moon is also actively transmitting interfering frequencies that have a frequency-lowering effect on Earth and its inhabitants, and the moon also is the one who is changing and modulating the Earth's magnetosphere's frequency to serve as an ethical barrier, the one known as the Van Allen belts. The moon is an active and critical component in maintaining Earth's 3D matrix realms and all its characteristics and illusions, as I will detail in the second part of this video. But strong souls who have reached a high spiritual awakening level can transcend all that the moon is transmitting and imposing onto the population, to the point where it becomes irrelevant to them. Strong awakened souls are immune to the moon's frequencies, they transcend them, and only choose to see her beauty in the night sky, hologram or not. The moon is beautiful and romantic. To be continued in the second part, soon. Thank you for watching my video and for liking and subscribing, I appreciate it a lot. The Moon, Part 2. Internal Structure. In the first part, I talked about how the United Federation of Planets, of the Galactic Federation, the same thing, describes the history of the Earth's moon. From the point of view of stellar information, the moon was artificially placed in Earth's orbit some 12,500 years ago to help stabilize it, and that was necessary because of two main reasons. The first one is because Earth received several trillions of tons of water coming from the destroyed planet Tiamat, and this alone was enough to destabilize Earth's orbit, and its magnetic polar dynamics. The second one is because of the destruction of Tiamat, which was a large watery planet that once orbited the Sun between planets Mars and Jupiter, and today its remains are the asteroid belt. This destruction caused a big astronomical imbalance that affected the entire solar system, creating chaos in all the planets' orbits, and which had to find its new equilibrium naturally and after a long period of adjusting time, in which advanced interstellar civilizations could only help in a very limited way. The moon is a counterbalance to stabilize Earth and its orbit, but it is not only that. As I described in the first part, the moon is an artificial spherical-shaped starship that was badly damaged beyond repair in the battle that destroyed planet Tiamat some 12,500 years ago. It was built by the Arcturians, with the help of the Andromedans who would become its final owners and users. As the moon is a starship, or a large biosphere ship or space station, it is hollow. The moon's internal structure is made of 144 levels consisting of 144 inner spheres, placed one inside the other like an onion, and in which the spaces between them are the ones used for practical purposes. The moon is made of 144 interconnected spheres one inside the other, but not at the same distance from each other, and placed as a Russian doll, and each one is a starship hull in itself. The first level under the outer hull is full of machinery and hangar spaces, and it is there where its artificial gravity generators are placed. The moon has several hundreds of large hangars of different sizes, meant to harbor other smaller vessels, and they are placed along this level right under the outer hull. The entrances to those hangars, especially the ones in use today, are masked as craters using the lunar hologram. They are large horizontal sliding doors in some cases, and in others, those doors open as a shuttered diaphragm from a photographic camera does. Under the floor of those hangars, inside the next sphere, the main control installations can be found. This is the place where official centers reside, where most visiting races are accommodated, as well as housing the necessary life-sustaining machinery, and for maintaining the inner levels functioning. Under this level, and passing through the first two whenever it is necessary, the main engines are accommodated, pointing in every direction, but also having one main super large engine that is masked as the crater known as Tycho. Under this level and under several other service layers, the first of three main biosphere levels is found. The biosphere levels are places with a very high ceiling where a natural ecosystem is allowed to thrive, yet always under artificial control. There are, or were, mountains, rivers, plains, grasslands and oceans there, with all their plants and animals, as well as farmland to harvest the necessary food for the biosphere inhabitants. Inside this level and immersed in that artificially controlled nature, there are, or were, several large cities and towns, and this is where most inhabitants used to live. These are not human-like cities, they are softer, and friendlier to nature ones, with a lot of space between buildings and constructions. Most Andromedan people used to live in places like this, but they also inhabited more traditional ship-like installations closer to the outer hull, and as needed. Under several other service layers, the second biosphere level is found, with the same characteristics as the first, but harboring different ecosystems, mimicking those of alien planets, and as needed, or wanted by the biosphere's inhabitants. Once more, under several service layers, the third main biosphere level is found, with the same characteristics as the first two, although smaller as we go deeper into the moon. Then under this last level, we find more life-sustaining equipment and machinery of immense size, and at the core, there are an array of 72 zero-point reactors that power the whole biosphere ship. According to the data I have, a few of them are still working, and the others are either damaged or turned off as they are not needed. This above is the basic description and in a few words, of the internal structure of any large biosphere ship like the Earth's moon. Today there are innumerable biosphere ships built basically the same way, with an internal onion structure, each one with its own variants as would be expected, and there are several of those super large crafts in this solar system, mainly orbiting Jupiter and Saturn. Some of them are also behind the disguise of being a moon. The sad part is that the biosphere ship that is being used as Earth's moon is basically in ruins. Much of its internal levels are badly contaminated by radiation from that battle long ago, and its biosphere ecosystems have been removed and deactivated long ago. Most of its levels are today not much more than thousands of kilometers of junkyard. The information about the moon I have is not complete, and I'm starting to realize that although I have more than enough to cover several videos, the Federation has not disclosed in detail many things, nor has it disclosed the exact contents of each level as they are today. Although I'm researching this subject among others, right now I cannot know if the information is being censored, or if I simply must look for it in another place. For example, it is not clear to me if those biosphere levels are completely sterile nowadays or if there is any ecosystem still existing there, but the data does suggest everything is destroyed nowadays. I will share my findings with you all as I go along with this subject. What is quite clear is that the surface levels, hangars, and official control places are still functioning, and serve as an operating base for the Federation and many of their smaller ships, yet it is not their main command and control center, that one is located in the other biosphere ship also in Earth's orbit, the Viera, which is hiding behind the moon, using it as a shield not to be seen from Earth, and which is a lot smaller and triangular shaped, not spherical. In the third part of this lunar series, I will talk about the moon's influence on Earth, and how it is generating low-frequency vibrations to help keep Earth in 3D, as well as morphing Earth's magnetosphere into the Van Allen belts that serve as a radiation and etheric barrier around Earth. As a last note for today's video, I must say that the systems on the moon which transmit low-frequency energy transmissions to Earth are not being fed but any of those 0-point reactors located at its core, as those are being used to feed the rest of whatever is still working there. The systems that help keep Earth in a 3D state are being fed by 8 or 12 ionizing nuclear reactors, much like the ones found on Earth, and many of them are offline, failing or malfunctioning nowadays. Researching this I found conflicting information about how many nuclear reactors are still working and how many there are in total, that's why I said 8 or 12 above. I'm researching this and I hope to be able to give more precise information about them in the next video of this lunar series, as well as the reasons why nuclear reactors were used to feed the sequential order on the top right part of your screen now. This information I'm sharing with you today comes directly from the archives of the United Federation of Planets, or Galactic Federation, the same thing, it is accepted and it is readily available for everyone outside Earth and its 3D matrix. From inside Earth, this information can be seen as science fiction as it conflicts drastically with what humans are told about the moon. From the point of view of an average person inside the Earth's matrix, the most plausible explanation for the existence of the moon is that it is a natural satellite that has a dusty grey surface full of craters, especially on the far side, and it is the most plausible explanation because the context, background, and knowledge an average person has been programmed with dictates it is so, and every other possibility is simply fiction. But from the point of view of someone in space outside the Earth's 3D matrix, what is plausible and why the simplest explanation is that the moon is an old battle-damaged biosphere spherical ship that was artificially placed there to help stabilize Earth's orbit around the sun because that is the context and information the average person in space grew up with. This is another example of how realms are separated, and the people who live in one cannot easily be in contact with people in the other as it many times causes severe perception conflicts. After the destruction of planet Tiamat, all the planets in this solar system were in complete chaos, because their gravitational dynamics and equilibrium were drastically altered, modifying their orbits around the sun. The Galactic Federation couldn't do much about this problem as it was so large and the planets were allowed to reach their equilibrium mostly on their own. All that the Federation could do is counterbalance some of the planets to help them gain equilibrium. This was achieved by tractor beaming large asteroids into the orbit of Mars, and also by moving a battle-damaged biosphere ship into Earth's orbit to help it regain balance. In the case of Earth, all its biology depended on the sunlight the extinct planet Tiamat reflected onto Earth at night. Tiamat was a large watery planet that was very bright at night as I explained in my previous videos about the moon. Without planet Tiamat shining at night, much of Earth's biology was also in a chaotic state, with many species going extinct making the effects of the global flood even worse. The logical move for the Federation was to move into Earth's orbit a battle-damaged biosphere ship because its metallic smooth surface was an excellent sunlight reflector. And then they placed a high-definition hologram in front of it so it would look like a natural moon. Today, even some parts of Earth's official science accepts that if the moon were natural it would be a lot heavier and it would simply be too large for Earth. The first way the moon affects the Earth is as a mass counterbalance to maintain a more or less stable orbit. Before Tiamat's destruction, Earth's orbit was much less elliptical, which caused a much more stable environment with less drastic temperature and seasonal changes. In other words, back then, Earth was a planet that was easier and friendlier to inhabit than what it is today. Back then, Earth was considered a superhabitable planet, where the climatic and biological conditions made it an ideal place to live in, for people who have a Lyrian, or human body. Superhabitable planets are those that have a set of life-sustaining conditions superior to Earth's. Two examples of superhabitable planets are Ptoia, orbiting the star Arcturus, 37 light-years away, planet Alpharata, formerly known as Phaeton, orbiting the star Alpha Centauri, at 4.36 light-years, and planet Tema, orbiting the star Taygetus in the Pleiades star system, at 440.3 light-years away. The moon affects the Earth's tides, and guides biology at night, as you all know, and I'm not going to go into those details as they are widely known, but I must mention them nevertheless, also because this is one of the reasons why the Galactic Federation had to place the moon in Earth's orbit. The moon is artificially transmitting high-energy beams that alter the frequency of the Earth's natural magnetosphere, with this creating the Van Allen radiation belts. These high-energy beams are focused on the Earth's magnetosphere using an array of special disc-shaped antennas on the moon's surface. These antennas are exposed on the surface but they are masked as craters using the lunar hologram. They project an array beam with a specific frequency that adds to the natural one of the magnetosphere, creating a much stronger energy field that envelops and surrounds Earth, serving as an etheric barrier and as a high radiation shield. Although the energy beam only affects the magnetosphere directly, as a side effect it also lowers the overall frequency of Earth, as would be expected following the principle of dominant frequency, which basically dictates that the strongest frequency will tend to transform all the other ones into more of itself. This causes everything on Earth to vibrate at a lower frequency than the average one everything vibrates at outside Earth. As my predecessor stated, this causes Earth to be at a 3D slow and past the existential vibratory rate, while everything outside Earth is considered to be vibrating at a natural 5D existential vibration. But as I explained in my video about 5D, it is not a place you are in, it is a level of perception and awareness, and so is 3D, and all the densities as well, leaving 4D as a transitory level. In my opinion, this density with numbers description is only causing a lot of confusion. For me, living in 5D is a state of mind which comes from having a much evolved soul and consciousness, and from where you manifest your positive reality. But what is true is that the moon does transmit a range of artificial frequencies that transform and modify the magnetosphere, and also lowers Earth's vibratory state and everything inside it as well. This system is being fed by 12 reactors, of which 8 are pressurized heavy water reactors, and 4 of them are fast neutron reactors, and it is these 4 which are still working, the other 8 are no longer functional. I find the fact that these reactors are very human, or very similar to the ones used on Earth and with human technology, very interesting, if not suspicious, but at this time I can't find any data on the reason why these are being used, and not the more advanced and reliable 0-point reactors nearly everyone uses outside Earth. When I find more data about this, I will share it with all of you. All this means that being on Earth does not dictate how advanced you are or become mentally, spiritually, and consciously because it merely propitiates a set of experiences that are compatible with a low, or primitive mentality, and it will depend on the mentality and consciousness each person, or creature has while having an experience there on Earth. The set of low frequencies Earth is immersed in makes it possible for different consciousness or souls, who are at very different levels to coexist in the same realm. The slow and past the existential frequency of Earth unites creatures, making it possible for them to share the same realm that in other more natural circumstances would be naturally separated, much like the lower astral is with the material, or world of the living, mixed and affecting each other, yes, but not directly in the consciousness awareness of the average person. With this artificial frequency modulating system being transmitted from the moon, advanced souls can have a life experience that is hard and challenging, and which would not be compatible or in accordance with the natural existential frequency of their highly evolved souls. For this to work, a super-resistant biological body had to be used, to homologize most souls into more or less equal life conditions. The human Lyrian body was the best choice as it is not only very resistant, but it is also widely known by everyone in this space quadrant. This way, souls coming from countless different stellar species could be united into living a common incarnation experience on Earth as humans. Souls don't have a species, they don't belong to any star race, souls are just that, souls, holographic fragments of the original source, and source itself, but they do develop attachments and a taste for belonging to one or another species and gender, after countless incarnations and reincarnations in many of them. At least after the destruction of planet Tiamat, and the artificial placement of the moon and its frequency-lowering effects, Earth has been a school for souls, so they can have a short and intense incarnation full of challenges and hardship in which so much can be learned in a short time, that they advance a lot more than having several incarnations in kinder and more comfortable worlds. With this, a soul can learn how to control emotions and challenges, as well as to learn how to do a lot with few resources, all this meaning that a soul on Earth learns fast how manifestation works, and how to control and manage it. Souls on Earth learn how to manifest their positive and nourishing reality, despite being in the same existential realm in which other souls are in a lower, or lesser evolved stage of learning their manifestation and energy management skills. Souls enter life on Earth in several ways, mostly directly incarnating from the space between lives, but all the data I have indicates that they all enter Earth willingly, never because someone or something forced them into doing so. Then here I must mention the meaning of suffering in relation to the fact that souls knew what they would face while living on Earth, but I will leave this for another video as it is a very large and extensive subject. Another interesting piece of data is that it is said that a soul in a low vibratory state cannot pass through the Van Allen ether shields, and a highly advanced soul that vibrates a lot higher, can, and with this, souls can escape the matrix on Earth. This is interesting, yet I cannot fully agree, because as far as I know, all souls enter and exit Earth in the afterlife as they please and as their frequency dictates, they go to wherever vibrates like them, and this means that their ideas, frequency and attachments would be the ones that cause them to want to go back and reincarnate on Earth once more, and not a barrier like the one in a jail. As you can see, Earth's matrix is kept in a low-frequency vibration artificially and with full intention. You can see this as either being imposed on you in a tyrannical manner, or you can see it as a challenge and as a learning experience for your soul, because you can create your own heaven on Earth positive reality while living there. You are the creator of your reality, and you control it, and everything else you are watching and you see happening around you there on Earth is part of the context, and of the necessary frame, needed to create your life learning experience. You are not a victim, take control of your life. There is still a lot more to say about the moon, and it will continue in the 4th part of this series soon. Thank you for watching my video, and for liking and subscribing for more, I appreciate it a lot. I am Marie Swaru. This is the 4th part of my videos about the moon, and to be able to fully understand what I'm saying here, I strongly advise watching the other 3 parts first. If you haven't already, I will place links to them in sequential order on the top right part of your screen in the next few seconds. Talking to one of my Tagetan team friends, we realized that this subject is not only very large but also confusing as there are a lot of incomplete pieces of information, even though the amount of it is huge. I have found that although there is a lot of stellar information about it, when I research something, it gives me some of the needed pieces of information, but then it does not completely explain what I need to understand as it starts to branch out in other directions, so I need a lot of time and dedication even just to find out simple facts. This means that a lot of the information about the moon is confusing, incomplete and even contradictory. Besides, there are parts that don't make any sense, even though, as I said above, there is a lot of information about it, yet not everything is relevant for a video. One of the problematic pieces of information states that the moon is an old battle-damaged biosphere spherical ship which was beyond repair, so it was used as a counterbalance to stabilize Earth's orbit around the sun. But the reason the Federation states that it was beyond repair is because it was, and is, heavily contaminated with radiation from the multiple nuclear weapons used against it during the Tiamat War. This is circumstantially backed up by evidence of nuclear explosions, including the presence of radiation in several old archaeological sites on Earth in the Middle East, for example in Mohenjo-Daro ruins in Pakistan, or in the Rajasthan territory in northwestern India, which their dates more or less coincide with the 12,500-year-old Tiamat War, also taking into account that dating anything that far back in time is nearly impossible, because the duration of any unit of time is not a constant. So how long a day lasted thousands of years ago is impossible to calculate accurately. Some researchers on Earth have placed the dates of those ancient nuclear detonations as early as 2,500 years ago, but as dating is a mess, they may very well coincide anyway. And dating is a mess not only because time is not a constant, but also because on Earth scientists mostly use carbon-14 to determine the age of something, and that method is known for being extremely unreliable. The problem I see with this is that according to Tagetan archives about the Tiamat War, is that both sides in the conflict had access to much more advanced weapons, and with a much higher destructive power, so nuclear weapons are something that I feel smells like coming from the governments of the Earth Matrix, and as something much more recent. Yet, contradicting this, there is evidence of used nuclear weapons on Earth thousands of years ago, and the Federation archives state that they were detonated during the conflict. A biblical example that can be interpreted as caused by a nuclear detonation is the story about Sodom and Gomorrah, where it is said that the few who survived were instructed not to look back at the city while they walked away, or they would become a salt statue. And another interesting example is found in the Sanskrit text Mahabharata, which describes total devastation with descriptions that exactly match those of a nuclear war, including a weapon release procedure identical to the one that would be used. As it is stated there were blasts more brilliant than 1,000 suns, and the bodies of the victims were consumed and turned into dust. Adding to this, it states that the individuals who survived these blasts lost their hair and fingernails shortly after, and the land was contaminated as well as all their food supplies. Other researchers state that the radiation found in those archaeological sites, although 10 times stronger than normal, others say 50 times more, could still be coming from natural causes. I could quickly know if this is so, if I had access to the exact kind of radiation found in those places, but my research efforts have been futile so far. So, the use of ancient nuclear weapons on Earth doesn't necessarily mean that they had to come from more modern times, but when we add these facts to the presence of 12 nuclear reactors on the moon, then things start to point in another direction, and an ugly one. The use of modern nuclear reactors on the moon to power the Van Allen belts, and to sustain Earth's existential frequency low obviously points to human intervention, and it is easy to conclude that the Earth's cabal had something to do with the installation of those reactors, as they had all the motivation to do so, because as usual what they are interested in is to manipulate and control the human population into submission, and into always being in a low-frequency mind state. Although contradicting this is that the information I have about those lunar nuclear reactors indicates that they are quite ancient, at least a few thousand years old, yet, the kind and type of those are 8 pressurized water reactors, or PWR, and the other 4 of them are fast neutron reactors, which are modern-day technology. Then, returning to dates that don't match, the fact that those nuclear reactors on the moon are ancient does not mean that they didn't originate recently, as from the 20th century even, because if the Earth's cabal was who installed them there on the moon they would have used the secret space program, and that includes the use of advanced portals and temporal manipulation as well as time travel, and would have needed the full cooperation of the local Galactic Federation authorities, if not, their full cooperation as well. Why the moon systems are not being powered by zero-point reactors is not clear. They would be the simplest, cleanest, and most reliable option, but it does point in the direction of the Galactic Federation cooperating with the Cabal on Earth, so you can understand, or imagine the ramifications of this. Another contradicting point is that even though the moon is said to be highly contaminated with radiation, there is a lot of Federation activity going on there all the time. From here it is easy to see a lot of starship traffic coming in and out of the moon. When I asked about this, I was told that the heavily contaminated levels were the deeper ones, and not the more superficial hangars and installations, but I don't find this very convincing because if there was a nuclear attack against the moon, logic suggests that the surface areas would be the most affected ones, and not the internal levels unless someone managed to detonate a device, or devices well inside. Or, as an alternative explanation to all this, the data about the reactors, and the moon may be erroneous, placed forcefully to create a context to justify other actions. Nowadays we already know that much of Earth's history, if not all, is fabricated and all the dates are wrong as well, and I transfer this to the information about the moon as well. The fact that a lot of this information comes from the Galactic Federation, therefore is stellar accepted data, does not mean that it is not manipulated as information is on Earth, because sadly, what I just said above is yet another indication that the Galactic Federation is not only working with the Cabal that governs and controls Earth's society, but that they are simply levels of the same thing. As we've said before, there is a larger matrix outside Earth, that also includes the one on Earth as another level of it, and the Galactic Federation is in fact the ultimate controller of Earth. And I must insist that if dates don't coincide perfectly, it does not mean anything because the Galactic Federation uses time travel, manipulation, and portals all the time. Another interesting fact here is that the moon is considered a no-fly zone, which means that any curious stellar race cannot simply send a drone there to take radiation measurements or send a team to research and investigate it closely. Special permissions are needed to go there, and they are not easily granted, yet there is a lot of Federation military activity going on there all the time, but the normal stellar races are not allowed to know why or what for. This also makes me link this with the human-built reactors there, and with all that is being said in other YouTube channels about the secret space program and its activities on the Moon and Mars, another no-fly zone, by the way. And this inevitably leads me to compare the similarity between the no-fly zone of the Moon and the one in Antarctica, which also has heavy Galactic Federation activity going on there year-round. Moving on to another thing, it is said that the Moon is the control center from which the matrix of Earth is being projected, or created, but what I have seen is that the real control center resides in the Andromedan biosphere ship Viera, although this does not mean that the Andromedans are behind all this because the Viera is a multiracial, multicultural hub, full of activity. It is also said that matrix things, such as banks and government buildings are being created and inserted from the Moon, but I see no evidence of this. What I do see is that the Moon transmits low-frequency waves that transform the Earth's magnetosphere into the super-radioactive Van Allen belts, and as a secondary effect, all this lowers the overall existential frequency and vibration of Earth and everything inside it. In my opinion and with the best information I have, what I see is that the Moon only propitiates low-frequency life experiences on Earth, and it is those who end up making the Earth's inhabitants manifest those government buildings, banks, and other 3D matrix things and events, on their own. And to finish this video, I must insist that living in determinism and a victim mentality would be part of the effects of living in a low vibratory frequency soup, but that does not mean that each one of the inhabitants of Earth cannot create their own frequency bubble and positive personal reality. I still see that it is the people, and each person who is in control, and Earth is a place full of challenges for a nourishing and enriching experience for souls, and their spiritual advance. Thank you for watching my video, and for liking and subscribing for more. I appreciate it a lot.
That's all for today, Buttercups. Now here's a fat girl blowing up the Earth.
Yeah, see, that's what I did.
Ooh. Oh! Fuck!
Yeah, see, that's what I did.